Once upon a time, Marvin lived in his maze, and everything was wonderful, until the Robonoids came. You know, back in the 80s, we called that a story. That was all it took to get the quarters out of your pocket. One poorly punctuated sentence was more than enough motivation to go collect the dots. I'm not saying, I'm just saying, we left the scripts to professionals, like Sylvester Stallone. You know, he wrote Rocky, you know. Nonetheless, this is Marvin's Maze, a 1983 arcade game now re-released on the PlayStation Network. And you know, its timing is one of the most interesting things about this game. Just 3 years earlier, Namco's Pac-Man made his arcade debut on a freaking red carpet lined with glowing pellets. And so by 1983, a lot of the major publishers were preparing to release Pac-Man clones of their own, this being one of them. So Marvin's Maze is obviously Pac-Man inspired, to say the least. But speaking of clones, SNK's Marvin's Maze also shares a lot of similarities with Atari's Crystal Castles, a game that was released the same year and had a lot of the same gameplay conventions. It was definitely the more popular of the two as well, so if you've never heard of this somewhat obscure release, you're probably not alone. But even if its name is unfamiliar, its gameplay is pretty standard, playing as a wide-eyed alien thing that kind of looks like a deformed Tootsie Pop owl. You grab the dots before the menacing Robonoids chase you down. You can shoot them with the appropriate power-ups, but I didn't find that out until I was already done capturing footage. And believe me, that would have made things a lot easier. So obviously, Marvin's Maze plays very similarly to Pac-Man, but it does make a few interesting additions. In addition to Marvin's laser, the game board takes place on 2 planes instead of just 1. There are elevators scattered at the far corners that take you between them, and of course you have this tilted isometric view. Now, it might not sound like much, but it does give Marvin's Maze a surprisingly distinct feel. Running from these Robonoids on 2 planes forces you to consider your moves even more carefully than you might in Pac-Man. It's not only a matter of running from the guy behind you, but it's also about checking to see if the floor below is clear as well. Easier said than done. Now, this is far from a great game. It's not even really a good game, but it is pretty challenging, and actually it's surprisingly fun too. In fact, the only major criticism I could make is that the controls aren't exactly exemplary. Moving Marvin with the D-pad on an isometric plane causes some real precision problems, and when your lives are so sparse, that can be pretty frustrating. But in terms of the core game, I had a lot more fun with Marvin's Maze than I expected to. Oh, it's not Pac-Man, and it's not even Crystal Castles, but it's not awful. And, I mean, look, it has Robonoids. I don't even know what those are. I didn't even know you could shoot them either. I come prepared.